All right, let's talk about UFC 316. Pay-per-view. It's a pay-per-view. People have to pay for it. And you spoke about pay-per-view buys. I'm not sure if this one was really going to beat the number of the people that signed the John Jones petition, if we really found out what the number was at the end of the day. I mean, Luke, I got to ask you to kick things off as per usual. What is the rating out of 10 for this one?
Ooh. All right, so you've got the Merab fight main event, which I don't hate. I don't hate that fight. Whether or not it's the right fight is one consideration. But is it a good fight? It should be a good fight. Should be a fine fight. Co-main to me is reasonably interesting. There's limits to both of them, but it's I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
Read me the rest of the card. What do we have there? My brain is not working.
We've got Patchy Mix. He's making his big debut, obviously.
Against Bautista.
And
love that fight.
And it's interesting because it's on the same fight card as the title fight, right? So that kind of makes it a little bit juicier.
Love that. What else we got?
We got Kelvin Gastelum. He's fighting Joe
Pfeiffer. I actually kind of dig that fight. That's an interesting one. I mean, I think it's a tough fight for Gastelum, but I think it's a good fight for Pfeiffer. It could be fun. And then what's the opener on the main card?
Well, that's basically it at the moment. I think it's going to be
that's only 4. You got to get 5.
I think it will be Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland. You would think.
Oh,
I don't know how.
Yes, that's right. Which is a fine. Which again is a fine fight. Nothing special in either direction, but fine. And
you got to pay $80 USD for this, right? Over here, it's like 60 Australian.
C minus, something like that.
C minus.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that's a low grade. I don't hate this card. I do this for a living, so I have a slightly different perspective on what I am trying to get out of this. Obviously, the bigger the fight, the better the returns for people like you and me, and so it's lacking in that sense. However, I do think there are interesting questions about the main event, and the Patchy Mix quotient to me is very interesting, and there's some decent action up and down this one. Like on a night where I have to stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning. Am I going to see enough MMA action that keeps me intrigued just in terms of pure MMA? Yeah, probably I am, right? So I tend to be a little bit more forgiving. But, if you're a fan and what you want is like big fights and you want big stars and you want big stakes, it just doesn't have it. It's not there.
What's your take on Sean O'Malley getting the immediate rematch? Because people have been talking about whether or not it was a mistake. Should he have just gotten sort of a warm-up fight to get back into the mix? Maybe someone like a Jose Aldo, for example, could have been a fun fight for O'Malley just to get his feet wet and figure out what's next for him. While Corey Sandhagen fights Merab, for example, for a title. Or do you think that the UFC being like, look, this guy's a money cow. If he wins here, this will be really good for us. Let's just throw him back in this rematch. Do you think that strategically this was the right choice?
There's no question. That's a big role. I mean, dude, people want to make this more complicated than what's it about. Like everyone thinks that UFC matchmaking is, I want that guy to fight that guy. Let's make that fight. That's just not how this shit works. It's just not how this shit works. Yes, they might start with that. Hey, let's make a wish list of we got this guy ready. Who are we going to match him up against? I've talked to matchmakers. I've talked to UFC matchmakers. I've talked to the Bellator and Strikeforce matchmaker. I've talked to the PFL match. I've talked to like matchmakers for years and years and years. Much more than people realize is who's available on what date and what promotional need does this person fulfill. Like that is so much more of a deciding factor, even for things like pay-per-views or belts, than you might otherwise realize. Now, there might have been other names available, so I don't think it came down to that, but it's really not that complicated. The vast majority of the pay-per-view buying public is where? North America. If you're going to do that, and in particular the United States, you would be better served having somebody as an American in that role. That's not me. People are like, oh, here's an American telling us that we should take more Americans who don't deserve shit. It's really not my point. Like, I would have been totally fine personally if they had made Jan in that contest. But now you've got Merab, who speaks good English, but it's not his first language, against Jan, who doesn't speak any. And you got to sell that to an American pay-per-view buying public who doesn't know either of those guys. That's a tough proposition. It's a very tough proposition. Or you can sub in a guy who probably doesn't deserve it and kind of got whooped in the first one. Although, whatever, the 5th round was interesting. But he's American and he's young and, he was a former champion and pay-per-view fans UFC audience who buys pay-per-views in North America know him a lot. It's not really a mystery why he got subbed in. It doesn't match the concerns that people have related to the meritocracy, but meritocracy is one among a series of competing interests that all have to be managed.
So then let's look at the scenario that a lot of people have spoken about, which is a lot of people feel that this fight could maybe even go worse for Sean O'Malley. Like, Merab's coming out here healthy. Let's say he goes out there and beats him in an even more decisive fashion than in the first fight. What does that leave for Sean O'Malley if he goes out here and has another bad loss against Merab?
Probably 145. I mean, you're in a bad spot at that point. You could stick around and see what happens with Corey Sandhagen, because I would imagine that the winner of this is going to fight Corey Sandhagen. If Corey Sandhagen wins, I don't know if the UFC is going to be, chomping at the bit to give Merab a rematch, because I think Merab is now well liked, but his capacity for North American stardom is limited. And again, Sandhagen, American. I want your Australian audience to know I don't make the fucking rules, right? This is not my rule. This is not what I prefer. I'm just observing how it's done. And so I'm relaying that information based on who I've talked to and what I've seen over the years. If you're an American and you're a number one contender, you're in a good position to advance, not just because you're number one contender. So there's that. But honestly, like, if Merab wins and keeps winning, you got to do something. You got to rethink this. I think his frame could go to 45 and do some interesting shit, and Toporia's gone, Max is gone. Volk has some time left, but it's not exactly clear how much. But if you're O'Malley and you go up there, could you leapfrog Aljamain Sterling and getting a title shot? Like 1,000,000,000% you could. So if it was me, I would wait and see what happens. But you got to do, people are like, oh, you're in Rich Franklin territory, but people got to tell you what that means. He loses basically twice to Silva. He didn't fuck around and just I'm just going to stick around in one weight class. He went back and forth between middleweight and light heavyweight, and he won some and he lost some, but he was able to get big name opponents by making himself. He got Chuck Liddell and he won that fight, but he got Dan Henderson, but he lost that fight, but he got Kung Lee and he lost that fight, but he got, you name it. He went up and down to just get the biggest fights possible. I think you'll see something similar.
So you talked about how you have questions about the main event. The fifth round, for example, in the first fight, we saw some promising signs from Sean O'Malley. What are your biggest questions when it comes to this rematch? And if you're Sean O'Malley here, what is the best path to negating this tornado that is Merab and picking up a victory here at UFC 316, would you say?
So this is the reason why I couldn't give this card like a lower grade, because I actually feel like there's really interesting questions about the main event. I don't know if Sean O'Malley is this guy. In fact, I think Corey Sandhagen is going to be better suited to beat Merab. And that might sound crazy, but everybody keeps thinking you can beat Merab the way you would beat almost any other opponent. Make your defense stout, try and, cautiously begin to work your offense and, be wary of what he does. And I just feel like that works for 99% of opponents. It just doesn't work for Merab. Like, Merab has the best cardio I've ever seen in any era, in any weight class of any fighter. He has the best cardio in MMA history because there's no depletion of it. He can do whatever he wants at any point, essentially. Right. So that's the first thing you have to kind of worry about. Two, people think that Merab, so for example, Umar tried something interesting, right? Umar's thought was, all right, I'll stop whatever takedowns I can of his. Because he's not really going to take your back and beat you up. Like, he's got some ground and pound, but he's not really like a submission threat from the back, right? That's really not what he is. So what you'll do is you might get taken down a little bit, but you'll stuff a bunch of them and then maybe try to take him down. Problem was, it turns out that Merab's takedown defense is also awesome. Very, very good. Really good. So he's got unbelievable cardio, lights out takedown defense. What are you supposed to do with that? Right? He's got limits. Like, his offense is not overwhelming, but it just never ends. When I say overwhelming, I mean to a finish, but it just the rain, it never picks up, but it never stops. Right. And I was thinking about this, if you go back and you watch the 5th round, what do you notice about the takedowns of Merab? Which is this, I'm going to make an obvious point, but just work with me here. He gets hit to the middle, right? A couple times. His takedowns were shit after that. He was open for punches after that. He was readable after that. People keep thinking what you have to do is like against other opponents. This is of course what you have to do, but against Merab, I actually feel like, dude, you cannot. He benefits because people do 2 things against him. One, they spend an inordinate amount of time holding position underneath, collar tying, overhooking, wrapping up guard, or trying to build height. But if you can't do that very quickly, he just burns the clock on you while he's putting busy shots together, and then he just takes you back down again, right? So you just spend an enormous amount of time never meaningfully engaged in offense. And then the other thing that he does is because he's moving so much and, feinting so much, he minimizes the offensive output of his opponents, to say nothing of when they're wrestling, just standing at range. Dude, it's a very simple thing you have to think about in MMA. Under what conditions does this opponent thrive? How do we take those away? Dude, you have to get in Merab's face. You have to hurt him. You have to have a strategy built on, oh, I'm going to defend takedowns. Forget it. I mean, yeah, if you want to defend it a little bit, fine. No, you have to engage with offense everywhere. You have to engage with your ability to land meaningful offense. And so this is why, to me, I'm not saying automatically surrender the takedown is the answer, but why I think Corey Sandhagen is an interesting opponent. Go back to that Figueiredo fight. When he gets taken down, what does he do? He immediately inverts. Dennis, what is the best way to win a scramble in wrestling? It is to initiate it. Merab has this magic ability to just put a blanket over a fight in every kind of way where he's setting the terms. But if you're the one through leg entanglement, not just facing him head on, which is what Charles Oliveira will do. Someone takes him down, he's on his back, right? He'll just go to the leg attacks from that position, but you're still acquiescing to that position. That's not what Corey did. Corey inverted backside 50-50. Well, now you have to answer for that. And your choice is to go away or to stop it, which now you can just go back to now 50-50 and come out on top. And that's, of course, how we saw Figueiredo get his knee shredded. The point I'm trying to make is you are changing the terms of the contest, and now Merab has to answer for it. When he gets close to you, don't worry about being taken down. Worry about landing a tremendous shot on him. Worry about finding a way to score meaningful offense. If he takes you down, immediately invert, immediately go to a leg entanglement, immediately go to backside 50-50, where you're finding ways so you can set the offensive terms in every way. What you have to ask yourself is Sean O'Malley that guy? I have my doubts, but we shall see.
It's so fascinating. Like, I'm really excited to watch that Sandhagen fight after you broke it down, because I agree with you. That's going to be such a fascinating fight. I was talking to John Wood about Patchy Mix, and if he wins on the card of UFC 316, where he thinks Mix ends up. And Wood thinks that he'd like to see Patchy Mix still get a couple more wins in the division before getting this title shot. Where do you sit on it? If Patchy Mix comes out here, beats Bautista decisively, what do you think that lands him in the division? Do you think he sits out and potentially fights for the belt after Corey? Do you want to see him fight one more time? What kind of approach would you like to see with Patchy?
Yeah, I think John Wood is right. John Wood's a smart guy, so I think he's probably right about that. I mean, listen, if he blows the doors off Bautista, then, maybe we're having a different conversation, because I know Bautista isn't like a fan favorite, but he's a good fighter. Like, he's not a bad fighter.
He's tough. He's not an easy fight.
Exactly. He's even if you think that you're better, and maybe you are, it's just not going to be that simple to get past him, right? So that, to me, it's a very qualifying win in terms of quality, and a big, not just a decisive win, but really like thrashing. That would be interesting to me if he thrashes Bautista. It changes the conversation. I don't think that's likely. I think he's got a lot to prove. Patchy Mix does, coming off that Magomedov win, but an impressive win, especially over a guy he previously put to sleep in the Bellator Grand Prix. So to me, a win here and then another one, that would solidify it. But I guess the conversation can change depending on what kind of victory, or Bautista goes in there and upsets the apple cart, which I don't think is out of the question by any means.
When you're in there with Merab, you're in there with a Tornado, you're in there with someone that's really hard to prepare for. You're not getting training partners. They're able to replicate that kind of aggressive pace. Patchy Mix knows him well. They've trained together a number of times. John Wood even spoke about how they've done, a lot of jiu-jitsu and grappling and all sorts of training. And obviously that's not the same as fighting someone. But are you interested in seeing what a Patchy Mix Merab fight looks like, especially with the knowledge that Patchy Mix has of Merab, right? Like, he has at least more of a blueprint of being in there with him in the training room than a lot of these guys do when they get in the octagon with him.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. I mean, again, let's see what happens by the time that becomes a relevant thing. But if we get to that point, there's no question in my mind. And people are like, oh, well, they know their games, they might offset each other. There's definitely going to be something to that. But they also have very different styles. They have very different weapons. They have very different means of controlling someone and what they want to do with it. And I think that just by itself, of course, there are ways in which they could negate the other guy and you end up getting a less than interesting fight. But if anybody has any idea about Merab's weaknesses, it's 100% Patchy Mix. And you already know what Merab's, strengths are. So, yes, I would love to see that. But again, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse. I have a feeling that Bautista might make this really interesting. My hope is that that's not true, because I really like Patchy Mix and he's been off forever, and it'd be cool to see him do really well in the UFC. But Mario Bautista is a tough guy.
Yeah, it's a difficult position. Big win for Patchy if he can pull it off. But yeah, doesn't help him if he doesn't pull this through. And it's not an easy entrance into the UFC. Hey, let's talk about Julianna Peña and Kayla Harrison. Do you think it's fair how so many people are talking about how sort of the future of the division kind of has a much brighter future if Kayla wins here? It seems like everyone's talking about, look, if Kayla comes in, if she wins here, if she beats Peña, it's going to bring in that extra attention, that extra fire that the division's been missing. Do you think that's fair, or do you think that talk is warranted?
It's mostly fair. I mean, Kayla stands the best chance probably of getting Amanda out of retirement. I mean, maybe they do a third fight with Peña. I don't know if there's a big mandate for that, but with Kayla, there's a big mandate for it. That would be big. To having a judo gold medalist winning a UFC title that's never happened, right? I mean, think about that. That's never happened. There's been wrestling gold medalists who've won UFC titles. Never been a judo gold medalist. That'd be a first, and that's independent of nationality too. Like, it's just never happened. So that's a big deal. I think Kayla's got a little bit more of an interesting career at this point for UFC fans, just given her background and like her relative newness. This is only her third fight in the UFC. So there's a little bit more mystery. There's a little bit more intrigue. There's a little bit more, something to it. So the only thing I would say in counter to that, though, is that you just have to be a fool to think she can do this for a whole lot longer. That weight cut is taking years off of her athletic life, if not her actual life. And, if you've ever seen Kayla in person before she was trying to make 135, just like a natural walking around, she's a tank. She's a tank of a person. I cannot believe she could find a way to get to 35. This has to be doing unbelievable amounts of damage to her. So I think that she'll win this one and maybe get the Nunes fight, and maybe she'll compete after that, but she has to have a handful of fights left in her career. This is not sustainable. She cannot keep this up.
Peña is very game as well. She's experienced. She's someone that's been in there with some of the best, in the division. How likely is it, do you think, that we might see sort of the scale defeat Kayla on the way to this fight? Because we've seen her last performance was a little bit underwhelming. These weight cuts obviously take so much out of her. How realistic do you think it is that we might not even be getting 100% of her come the fight at UFC 316 because of these weight cuts?
Dude, there's no way you're getting 100% from her. You're getting a cheap, depleted version. And that's true of every fighter. It's especially true in her case. This is, dude, 145 was a tough cut for her. 145, I remember her talking about it took effort. They were talking about 135, dude. Are you out of your fucking mind? This is so bad for her. She's leaving a lot athletically on the table. It's why, to me, she kind of moves almost a little slow at this weight class. You know what I mean? She doesn't move quickly. Dude, this is not her fucking good weight class for her. It's just promotionally, that's all that's available. But she is truly killing herself to get down here. I mean, it's not even close to where she would be if we wanted to get full athletic experience from Kayla. She'd be closer to like 160. You know, that's where she should be. And we're talking about 135. Dude, she competed high 170s in judo. Like, that's where she won 2 gold medals. I think like about 176 pounds, give or take. Like, dude, what the fuck are we talking about here? This is 40 pounds less than that. This is insane. Completely insane.
All right, guys, before I get back to the interview, I just want to thank my sponsor, MANSCAPED, for making this program possible. Did you guys know with a code word submission, you guys could save 15% off. That's 15% off plus free shipping from all of the great products on the Manscaped website. But I want to talk to you guys about the Chairman Pro. The Chairman Pro is a high-tech, dad-approved grooming upgrade, which is perfect for the Father's Day over there in America. But if it's not Father's Day, it is an electric face shaver that can tackle up to 5 days of growth and features 2 interchangeable blade heads. It's waterproof. The battery life is awesome, up to 75 minutes of runtime on a single charge, but it also showcases the battery level so you know when it's time to recharge with a display. Of course, it's got the travel lock, the LED spotlight, and most importantly, the 2-year warranty the Manscaped comes with. Manscaped, of course, has the Lawnmower 5.0, the Beard Hedger, and all sorts of other products. Some of the most comfortable underwear out there as well. So go to manscaped.com, use the code word submission, get 15% off and free shipping today. And guys, I also want to talk to you about our friends at SAILY. That's right, SAILY, the best eSIM on the market today. What is an eSIM? Let's say you're traveling, you need to make phone calls, you need to download data, you need to be able to use your phone. Don't line up in a stupid queue and replace your SIM card, lose your current SIM card, and sign up to some plan that lasts for months. Use SAILY today. You just have to download the app. You just choose the location where you're at. You choose the amount of data that you want, and you are sorted, my friend, to use your phone wherever you go, whatever country you go to. It's easy to use. Like I said, all you need to do is just download the app. You avoid roaming costs, never ran out of data because you're able to update it and increase it wherever you go. It's one eSIM for all of your trips, so you don't have to change SIMs everywhere you go. And it's got global and regional plans as well. Get up to 100 gigabytes of data or as little as 1 gigabyte of data for a week or half a year. SAILY is your place to go for everybody out there who's looking for an eSIM. So download the SAILY app now and use the code submission or go to saily.com/submission. The link is in the description below and you guys get an exclusive 15% off your first purchase. That's 15% off your first purchase. Try SAILY today. And now back to the program. How much of a nightmare do you think this would be for the UFC if she doesn't even make weight? I mean, because there's a good possibility she might be a couple of pounds off, right? You just never know when enough is enough. How much of a mess would this be for the UFC if that's the case?
I mean, it's the women's divisions. I hate to say this, but they're just not as consequential as they once were. I don't think it's a huge deal. I mean, it'd be bad. It'd be bad. But like, you know, is that really going to substantively fuck pay-per-view buys for that event? Probably not. Bringing back Nunes would be a big miss, but you know, that can't save women's MMA from the place that it's in, which is, I think, is a bigger conversation. So yeah, it wouldn't be good, but I don't think it'd be cataclysmic.
So Peña knows this cut's going to be brutal for Kayla. She's someone who's super experienced. She might not be the most polished, but she's tough. She's been able to get wins when we thought she couldn't. What do you think a game plan is here to try and survive this Kayla Harrison train and then come out with a win?
Well, if I'm her, I'm thinking about blitzing on the feet. You got an opponent who is deeply depleted. That means her chin is going to be depleted. And her gas tank is going to be depleted. Now, making her work is going to be harder because when you lock up with someone like her, you know, with Kayla's probably going to send Peña flying. I mean, I think I read the other day that Peña's takedown defensive rate is like 25%. It's just low. I mean, that's low. So you would imagine Kayla can get the takedown. You know, you could work for that, but if she can get to the back, I mean, what's Kayla's really best at? Ground and pound. Like, she's got awesome ground and pound, right? Like very, very substantial ground and pound and good positioning to accompany it, which is why the ground and pound is partly so good. You know, you have to kind of negate that. But like, if I'm thinking on the feet, you know, that blitzing strategy where you're just kind of overwhelming a little bit, it's, you know, it's not the easiest way to get a victory. that she uses an omoplata series to create scrambles. I would do that as well underneath, but I would try to do what I could to hurt a slower and physically compromised opponent. Like what do you have to take away from them? Well, they've already got a bunch taken away in Kayla's case. You have to take away the takedown. That's going to be tough. But the other one is you have to leverage their weaknesses, which is durability and speed. And I think Peña can do some of that.
Last one from me about this card, and that is the man known as Kelvin Gastelum. Obviously, he's fighting on the card as well. And at one time, he was one of the brightest up-and-comers in the UFC. He fought for the belt. He almost beat Israel. But ultimately, it kind of felt like he never really lived up to some of the hopes that the fans had for him, right? Now he's fighting on this card. But I got to ask you, Luke, he's in this weird spot in his career where he's kind of unable to make things roll the way that he used to. Ultimately, looking back on it now and that big run that he had that never quite worked out, what would you pinpoint as the ultimate downfall for Kelvin Gastelum as you look back on sort of what went wrong?
I'm not a Kelvin Gastelum historian. I'd have to think about that a little bit, but I would say generally two things really derailed him. One, you can make a claim about like, should he have made weight? I think he could have made weight more easily than he did. So his inability to make weight is a really big problem. In fairness to him, there probably should be, if we care about the health and safety of athletes, there probably should be a weight class between 170 and between 185 because he's kind of a tweener. If there was a 75-pound weight class, I think he still would have missed, I think, in certain cases, but we'd be a lot closer. That's not realistic, but I don't think it's an unfair argument for someone like him to make if he wanted to. But to me, man, it's really not that complicated. It's just, training adherence and discipline and living the kind of lifestyle day in, day out that you have to live, both to get maximum technical progression, which he did pretty good for a while on that level. And then also keeping your body primed for the job that it has to do. I mean, the reality is this fight's at 85. Dude, Joe Pyfer is a big 85er. And Gastelum's got a pretty rock chin, but, Pyfer, I'm not saying Gastelum can't win this one, but he probably shouldn't. And if we're just being honest, where do we think that Gastelum is most competitive? It's at 70. I mean, there was a long time people were like, oh, you shouldn't cut weight, to gain an advantage. Well, I mean, what Kayla's doing is fucking insane, right? I mean, I just don't, it's so bad. It's so bad. But like some weight cutting, like why do fighters do it? Because it confers a fucking advantage. That's why, a big advantage. And at 85, like, it just gets erased. It seems to me like for the most part, it gets erased. I know he did really well against Izzy and whatnot, but like in general, over time, I don't think he's going to be competitive against the Delidzes and, Vittoris and the Chimaevs and the DDPs. Like that just seems like a dead letter to me. But at 70 against Rachmanov, against Brady, he lost to Brady. So that's even kind of closed, but I still think at 70, it's a bit of a better option, but I don't know if he's led the kind of life and training discipline and lifestyle discipline to put himself in a position to win over the longevity of his career. Dude, it's so fucking true, man. Like the older you get, it's like, dude, you don't have to have the best workout of your life today. You really don't, but just go. And then the next day, you don't have to have the best workout of your life tomorrow either, or the day after that, or the day after that. And, over time you will, you can up the training intensity and whatnot, but you just have to go. You just have to go. It turns out the consistency of a standard, the consistency of an expectation, the consistency of a practice, not that every time you go out there is like, it's the most amazing practice. It's the most amazing thing that you do. It's the most amazing day that you had, but just that you tried that day. That's the key. Just like be consistent in the application of your professional life. And man, a year, 2, 5, 10 years later, that minimal, frankly, contribution just yields the most amazing fruit over time. That's the key. People think that the key is, how do I get shredded this summer, right? How do I get ahead of my job this year? 5 years. 5 years is what you should be thinking about. And it's every day is doing the thing that you have to do, not the best way you can do it, but just consistently. And I just wonder if he's done that.
How's 12 years for you? I can't believe that he joined the UFC in 2013 at the age of 21 and won the Ultimate Fighter 17. Crazy stuff. And still here at 33. That definitely is impressive. But again, like you said, consistency is key. There's no more consistency than morning combat as you guys prepare for UFC 316. UBC and Aaron Bronstetter, right? The pregame, is that what the cooking is on the episode?
Yeah, this coming Wednesday, the 4th of June. Yep.
Beautiful. And then Substack, LT Live, you'll be doing the live watch along for this one?
Of course. And then post-fight show. Don't forget.
Perfect. Well, there it all is. Luke Thomas, thank you so much for joining us. A lot of questions to be answered. Let's see what happens at UFC 316.